Hello, Team Vanishing. Andi Gladwin here. I've just interviewed Tomas Blomberg, and you're going to see that interview in just a couple of seconds. Before we do, I wanted to just explain you don't see me in the interview at all. It's just my voice, but I am here. So enjoy the interview with Tomas Blomberg. It's coming now. So I'm here live with a magician that perhaps you've never seen in the flesh before. He is a very elusive magician, but one I managed to pin down to write a whole book about. So please welcome my good friend, Tomas Blomberg.
Thank you, Andy. It's very good seeing you.
Likewise, we actually, even though we've known each other for, I guess, 15 years or more, we've only met 3 or 4 times. You don't really, you don't attend many magic conventions, at least not in the US or the UK. So tell me about yourself. Tell me kind of the things that you're doing now, what you do for a living. I think let's give people a good intro of who you really are.
Okay, so not magic-wise, I'm working as a developer and researcher at Innovative Vision, working with a scanner for the wood industry, and it's called Wood-Eye. And I'm the developer of the automatic image processing software for it. So it detects defects and cracks and knots and wane and stuff in wood, and then it optimizes how to chop it up or rip it optimally to make the customer earn as much money as possible.
Yeah. As a programmer, that to me is mind-boggling. Like, even as somebody who can write programs, I still have no idea how that would work. So this is like real kind of high-level, complicated stuff, right? This is not your basic website programming.
No, and I suck at website programming, so.
Well, together we'll make the perfect package. We're fine. So tell us about your background before that. You were in the Air Force?
The Air Force, more with helicopters than airplanes. So I got into it a bit later than people usually do. I think I was over 20 years old. Normally when you do the military service in Sweden, you do it at 18. But I was busy with my studies at the time. So for the studies I started just 2 years of electrical engineering. And then after that I did the military service in the helicopter Air Force. During that time, a friend of mine, he was studying applied physics, and I managed to get hold of one of his math books, and I saw that looked like a lot of fun. So straight after that I applied for applied physics and electric engineering for a civil engineering course.
What did you do in the Air Force? Were you an engineer?
No, it was more about communications and what do you call it, hunter, sort of protecting the airspace. Yeah.
Wow. So then you went back to university after the Air Force to do physics.
Exactly.
At what point did magic come into all this?
Oh, magic came much earlier. Magic was, I guess I was really young, like 4 or 5 years old when I got the first magic set. And I was really lucky because in a shopping center nearby where we lived, they started getting like small boxes, black boxes from something called Magic Masters. And this was really high-end stuff. I mean, it was incredible, like gaffed versions of Out of This World, of course, Professor Nightmare, and really clever stuff where pictures of keys turn into real keys. And it was just an incredible start finding those boxes there. And I haven't seen them since.
Well, something I talk about in your book is the first magic book you ever bought. Most people started with the Mark Wilson course or something like that, but not you. Yeah. Tell us about the first book you ever read, the first magic book.
First I borrowed all the books in the library here, and there are quite a bit of magic books. But They were very basic, extremely basic, and it actually made me lose interest in magic for a long while during the teenage years. But then I saw an ad for a book called Las Vegas Karma by Alan Ackerman, and it was really expensive. It was 450 Swedish kroner, and that's like less than my book cost now. So, but, but I didn't have much money then. So, but anyway, I bought it, and I didn't regret it because I was hooked from the first page. It was such an incredible structure to the tricks, and the most eye-opening thing was that Alan structured the tricks and the moves so that it didn't matter if people were staring at your hands. He didn't do any fast or hidden moves. I mean, it was all done in the open, and still it worked. So I love that.
Well, I would say there's a part of your card magic that's quite heavily inspired by Alan Ackerman, actually. And this I'm referring to the kind of the tricks that are more kind of, let's call them worker tricks. You know, tricks that you might do in a walk-around gig, that kind of thing. They seem to be very structured in a similar way to Alan Ackerman or John Bannon, where actually while there are sleights, it also relies more on construction as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, because after reading Alan's book, I mean, that was my goal for perfection in the trick, as far as I'm concerned. And the second book I bought was actually John Bannon's Impossibilia. So again, that was so inspiring, and those two books together just set a goal for me in every trick. So.
And in the book, I talk about there's a trick that you perform the most, or at least very often, Tattoo 2, which is an inspiration from a John Bannon trick.
Oh, more than inspiration, it's his trick totally, and I just changed the way to instead to use the gaff, sort of. The gaff in this case is an odd backer, and what's interesting is that this card in my version is never even introduced. It stays where it is in the card box, so you never even bring that gaff out. So I think it's really convenient, and I always have my deck set up to do it, always.
So it is like a worker for you, one of those tricks you do all the time.
Definitely.
And you know, that's what's interesting about you, and one of the reasons I wanted to write the book actually is because there are so many different versions of you and the magic you create. So one thing I think you would never really expect from a magician who's known for mathematical tricks and probability tricks is all of this workable material. I'd say you could take at least half the tricks in the book and actually perform them at a walk-around gig or at a close-up gig. It's not kind of boring dealing tricks where you're sat there just, you know, counting out the cards constantly. So that's something I'm really impressed with. So
there definitely is a lot of dealing tricks, but I wouldn't do it without any good reason for the dealing. I think that's important. Yeah.
All of those dealing tricks have strong presentations as well. I'm thinking of I don't remember the name of the trick offhand, but the trick with the Jamie Badman presentation of the about going to heaven and hell.
Deal the way.
Deal the way, that's it. Tell us about that trick, 'cause that's a really interesting trick where you've taken a classic magic problem and you've turned it into a stage trick with, what, 10 people helping or more?
It was actually Jamie Badman's story about his presentation for Myra skill. And then I remembered a paradox about a man about to be hanged, and I sort of combined the two. And I also at the same time realized that in Myra skill you can also randomly, it seems, get the mixed pairs into two different piles also. And that thing fooled me for a while, because I saw that it was working, but then I realized that it shouldn't be working. and it took me a couple of days to realize that it is working. So it's very unintuitive even for me.
Well, that was actually one of the more difficult tricks to write up, even though it's pretty simple, but I just could not get my head around why it works. And that's the job of an author, is to not only just understand why you do a trick in a certain way, but why it works in that way. And that was a real challenge for me, but we got there in the end. And yeah, it's amazing to see how you take these principles that we already know and add to it, like the Gilbreth stuff, for example. You take Gilbreth in just a total U-turn to everybody else, and you add extra elements, and it's just very impressive. How does a trick like that start? So do you start with a mathematical principle and explore all the different ways, or do you start with an effect first? How does that come about?
For that particular trick, I think I already had the method of the Gilbreth thing to divide the mixed pairs in the Myers-Gill trick. And then when seeing Jamie Badman's presentation, I just connected the two. But in that case, in the case of the basic method, I think I started with the idea that this should work. I mean, if you use the Gilbreth principle to divide the mixed pairs evenly, then they shouldn't affect the end result. And I tried it out, and it worked. And then eventually I got the idea to convince people why it shouldn't work. Yeah.
It's great. So it comes by merging the presentation and the maths, basically.
Yeah.
It's not one or the other. I want to talk about the different styles of magic. I've kind of touched on this already, but in my mind, you not only create those kind of workable tricks, but these clever mathematical tricks, and then also some gambling tricks. Of course, the book has quite a few great gambling tricks, and also it's not in this book, but the trick in 52 Memories that you did with Jack Parker. Do you remember that gambling trick? It's just so good. That's one of my top. Yes.
Rump Shaker? Yeah.
I think it is Rump Shaker, the one with the full deck stack, the one that probably everybody overlooks. Such a good trick.
Yeah, the beginning of that was actually Steve Mayhew's Angels May Shuffle and the Devil Still Deals. Mm-hmm. And then eventually that turned into 2 or 3 tricks along with Jason England. And then Jack Parker got hold of that, and we started working on something quite different with it. Yeah.
With a very typical Jack Parker touch at the end. So we have the gambling style stuff, and then also the confidence tricks as well. One of the last chapters in the book, we have 3 or 4 different like con scams, that kind of thing.
I really like bar bets and gotchas. I really like them because well, they are like a crossing between riddles and magic for me.
So of all of those different things that you create, all of those areas, and I know there are wider areas as well. We haven't even touched on like some of the non-card magic stuff, some of the like the topological bill switch, that kind of thing. Do you have a favorite that you like to create? A favorite style of magic?
Yeah,
and it's okay to say no.
Actually, I think so. But it's topological magic. I think it's very satisfying to start with things in a constellation that you want to reach, and then trying to reach that in front of people. And I have like a bunch of stuff I'm working on that I have the end result, but I don't know how to get there. so nothing ready to share yet.
Well, when you create tricks as well, it's not the end for you. Like the way we wrote the book is you basically shared your notebooks with me, which is on Dropbox, and I see the alerts coming up where you're constantly changing them, changing the tricks. Do you need to get that, or is it good?
No, my wife is getting it.
Oh, perfect. So it seems to me like you're always changing and improving your tricks.
Yes, I mean, almost every time when I pick up an old trick, I have some new insights into it. So I think I'm getting better at documenting the tricks now, especially since it's so easy for me to do it on YouTube and film stuff. And every time I look at it, I tend to tweak something. and it adds
Tell us
up.
about
So
how you keep your notes. I think it's an interesting way, and I wish I was as organized as you. But tell us about when you create a new trick. What do you do? How do you take those notes?
well, it is a bit different. If it's just small ideas, I just scribble them down on a paper. Like I just found something lying around here, and it says something like 18 card poker deal plus Gilbreth plus Eric and double facers, and that's enough for me to start working on something more structured after that.
I can't believe you just exposed
Then
that
eventually
trick.
I write it down. But for just quick documentation, I love filming it because it's much quicker than writing the stuff down.
Do you have like a private YouTube page where you publish your stuff just for you, or do you just store it on Dropbox?
Yeah, I have it where I keep the things unlisted or private. So
Great.
I don't really have any official videos there.
So let's move on to the book. Here it is, Blomberg Laboratories. I'm so proud of this book. Hopefully you are too. There are, I think we said 65 tricks. I think I counted.
Yeah.
Here's the age-old question, and it's so tough to answer. Which one's your favorite? Which trick?
Well, I think you already mentioned it. Tattoo you. I think it's fantastic. So it's something I'm always doing, and since it sets up for Sign Hot Mama, that's another favorite. I always do those two tricks, and I don't always carry a deck of cards with me, actually, especially not in the summer, but I always have rubber bands with me. So the magic lesson has been a lifesaver. It's so strong for me, so I really love that trick. Yeah.
That was another trick that was very tough to describe.
Yeah, I
That was
know.
the one that took us the
I think it
longest.
gave us both nightmares, just trying
Yeah.
to get the illustrations and the text down.
But you know what's great to see? There's somebody, his name is Madison, who has been uploading tricks to
Yeah.
YouTube, and within
He's
about 2
incredible.
days, within about 2 days of receiving the book, he put on YouTube a video of the magic
Yeah.
lesson.
Yeah, I have to
So
contact him and tell him that he's amazing and that I have no idea how he learned that so fast. And also that
yeah,
Madison, he even did the stuff I thought people would just skip because it would be too much hassle to create it. But no, he's done it. It's amazing, amazing.
and you know, on the magic lesson, I assume he sent it to you as well. But Jack Carpenter has a great version of one-handed unlink that's based
Yes,
on your trick. So that's
Jack sent that to me, and I did a double take when I saw it because that was really good. Really
it's
good.
crazy that he's already created like a great variation so soon. I'm putting that in my Genie column. I think it's gonna be the May 2016 issue, so it's a long way off, but still.
Okay, but it's a great one. Jack Carpenter is amazing. Yeah.
He's great. Well, I'll tell you my favorite trick. I have two actually, and they're tricks I haven't heard other people talk about that much from the book yet, but both are near the back of the book. So the one is tabled oil and water.
Okay.
And that one is one of my favorites because it fooled me so much when you first showed it me. And then the other one, and maybe you can talk about this one, is third time's a charm.
Oh yes.
Because part of the
Yes.
reason why is because of why it was
It's
created.
that trick is very dear to me. It was Jack Parker invited me and some other magicians, you among others, to a soiree. Well, mainly to do his tricks and hang out and have a chance to say goodbye to him, I guess.
Yep.
So it was a very emotional time.
So the idea was that we were going to perform, particularly me and you actually, perform tricks that Jack was most proud of, and we kind of didn't have long to learn those tricks. And I remember seeing you at breakfast
So
playing
yeah,
with.
exactly. Jack had asked me to perform a trick, sort of to be his hands, because because of the cancer, his hands were not really cooperating with him. So he wanted people to perform his stuff, and he asked me to do a trick called third time's a charm. And I didn't even know what the trick was, so I asked Andy here to look it up for me and maybe print it out, so at least I could read it through at breakfast before I was going to perform it. And I read it through, and it involved not a full deck stack, but a half deck stack. So the deck couldn't really be shuffled. But I got an idea there how to do it with an already shuffled deck, but I didn't tell Jack Parker about this. So when it came time to perform the trick, I started by introducing the trick, and I handed the deck to him, and I told him to shuffle it. And that was fun to seeing his face, because he knew the deck couldn't be shuffled at the time. So the variation I came up with is in the book under the name, I think, Time After Time.
That's right, Time After Time. And the trick is great. I'll give a 20-second overview of what it is. 3 people have packets of cards that they shuffle and mix in various ways, and then they all think of a number, they deal through to that thought of number, they swap packets, and they keep dealing their thought of number throughout all these packets, and eventually, somehow they all find their own selections. It's crazy, even though there's lots of mixture. It's the kind of trick I think we would see someone like Danny De Ortiz perform. Yeah, it's that kind of structure and thinking. It's such a great
I
trick.
get a lot of good feedback on that one, especially people saying that they go through it with cards in hand and fool themselves. And I understand them. I hope that people will read the notes in the end, because there is an extension of the principle, which actually puts a packet back in the exact same order. But I just haven't found the best trick for it yet. So I'd be happy to hear what people do with it.
Yeah. Well, I have to say that brings us full circle. Really, it's been great to catch up and hopefully show people there is a face behind the name and a face behind the book. So thanks for talking to me, and
thank you.
I look forward to forgetting some of these tricks for the book so that I can start rereading them again, like I've been doing with some of my older books. So it's just. Yeah, I'm jealous of people who get to read this stuff for the first time, because you have so much great magic.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.
Okay, take care. Bye.